Hello, 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 and welcome to the very first episode of the Ecocentric Human Design podcast. I am your host, 3-5 triple split emotional projector, Jamie Palmer, and I am so excited to be with you here today. So, before we dive into what is Ecocentric HD, what makes it different, I want to give you a little bit of context. For those of you who don't know me, I am a human design for business author, synthesizer. I have created several programs over the last few years that weave together my business expertise with human design to support people in building a business at the intersection of their design, their desires, and their lifestyle. I launched my very first program in 2021, which was the HD or is still is the HD or Biz program. And I expected to sell 10 and we sold 67. At the end of that program, I had so many people asking me, requesting of me to continue teaching them human design. And so I had never had the intention to do this, but I launched what was called the HD in the Wild program, or HD Wild, which is also still rolling. And I continue to tweak, hone, develop those programs over the last 5 years. I've also launched the Ideal Client with Human Design program, the business design with human design program, the experience offer. Like I've launched a lot of things. I've launched, created, synthesized a lot of things along the way. And in the process of synthesizing, I have birthed this new form that I would call it, I would consider it a new form of human design, which is what I call ecocentric human design. And I actually birthed this back in 2023. But I hadn't really done anything with it because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with it, how I wanted to kind of make things all work together in my business. Like the vision wasn't clear. So last year I got really, really clear and I said, okay, I'm going to have my HD, your business division, and that will be for people who want support in building a business at the intersection of their design, their desires, and their lifestyle. Then I will have the HD Your Biz University division, which are people who want to use the methodologies that I teach on the business side and use them themselves with their clients, right? So training and licensing on what I created. And then I also have HT Wild, which is my human design training and certification program. Now, I've run that program 8 times since 2022, and I birthed Ecocentric Human Design in 2023, but I didn't really do anything with it. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So last year I had this clarity of like the 3 divisions, right? I've got, or maybe 4, right? Because I got the HD Your Biz, the HD Your Biz University, the Ecocentric Human Design brand business training. And then I have, Ecocentric HD Publishing, which publishes all my books and will eventually publish clients' books and all sorts of other things. And so I had the intention to launch this last year, actually. I made the podcast last year. I got everything prepped to launch it. And some of you may or may not know, but I did a giant home remodel. We turned our 2 family into a 1 family. And I was like, I didn't have the bandwidth to give ecocentric human design the attention that it deserves. So I put it in the idea parking lot, knowing that once I got through the remodel, um, it would be here. And so having run 7 or 8, I think this is our 9th cohort. Um, Having run this program a lot of times, I feel that the timing now is really right to launch Ecocentric Human Design and the Ecocentric Human Design podcast, and really kind of not differentiate it in that it's its own body of work separate from my HD or biz work, right? So I have my HD or biz work, and then I have my HD Wild, but really now we're still running HD Wild. We're only running one cohort of HD Wild this year. We typically run two or three. I'm only running one this year because I really want to give those people everything that I have. Um, and so if that's something that you're interested in, hdinthewild.com. Um, but the thing is, it's like ecocentric human design. I now believe I have a big enough body of work and synthesis and mastery and experience that I can prop that up on its own, right? Just like I propped up the HD or biz stuff on its own. So that's kind of the context, right? So this isn't a new concept for me. I have practitioners. I think we've trained 100 plus 150 people so far in ecocentric human design through the HD Wild program. Um, and so it's time. It's time to bring this to the world. So if you are into human design, if you've been studying it on your own or you've studied with another practitioner, um, or you're just HD curious, as I like to say, this is going to be for you. Or, if you're doing HD for business work, but you want to add more context, right? You want to add more depth, you want to add more nuance, like this is also going to be for you. So let me stop boring you with like the backstory and let me dive into what is ecocentric human design, okay? Ecocentric human design to me, okay, is all about getting back to the nature of who you are before the world told you who you should be. Okay. And I'm going to say that again. Ecocentric human design is all about getting back to the nature of who you are before the world told you who you should be. Okay. And so for me, so much of this work, right, is moving from condition to congruent, resistance to resonance, triggered to glimmered, right? And it's more than just the knowledge, right? It's more than just knowing your design. It's living it, it's breathing it, it's integrating it, it's embodying it, and it's becoming it, right? It's this willingness to embrace your fears, your trauma, your self-doubt, your shoulds, your perfectionisms to and to lean in and to do the work, right? And to question like who says that's the belief that I'm supposed to have? A huge part of my deconditioning journey has been to question like who says it's supposed to be that way? Like I've had to deconstruct my beliefs and rebuild them. Okay. And that's been a very challenging process because not everybody comes with you. Not all your friends and family come with you. Not all your clients come with you. People will often tell you you're crazy. Um, so for me, ecocentric human design is about like owning all of who you are without compromising. It's the willingness to take up space, right? To spread your wings, to um really be unstoppable because you have this sort of quiet inner knowing and confidence of who you are and where you're going and what you're here to do and the impact that you want to make. And you are willing to do the uncomfortable work that your future self will thank you for. And you realize, right, that there is no shortcut or trend or hack or quick fix. There's no under or around. Um, there's only through, right? There's only through to get back to the ecocentric self. There's only through to get back to the nature of who you are before the world told you who you should be, so that you can actually become, right? So you can live out your soul's journey and the ecocentric self in this life. Okay. And one of the things that I've seen again and again and again and again and again with people, especially people who come to me to do business work, is that they have so much deconditioning to do that they fall into these preconceived beliefs that the only way to thrive in a business is to have a course, or the only way to, be successful is to shrink yourself down into one of these models. And that's a huge part of why I feel really called to do and create this division of my company, because I think it can go, this work goes beyond just business. Okay. And I think that where the mainstream human design industry gets it wrong is that they transfer a lot of knowledge to you. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to give you a lot of knowledge too. But you have to go beyond the knowledge, right? You have to actually go into integration and embodiment and embrace like the felt sense of your design in your body. And so many of us are in our heads that it's really difficult to rebuild a relationship with the body, right? And that knowing and that feeling in the body that is our design, right? And I would contend that that's what's missing, right? In many of the HD programs that are out there. There's a lack of integration, embodiment, and becoming. There's a lot of like a lot of people come to me from other um human design programs, and they say, James, oh my goodness, so much of the stuff was up here and your stuff is down here. Right? Like that's the most common thing that people say to me when they come into the HD Wild Ecocentric Human Design program. And that's part of what makes ecocentric human design different. One, there is a level of depth and nuance that is not available anywhere else. And I don't say that lightly. I really don't, because I know the work, the effort, the experience, the repetitions, the mastery that has gone into the development of ecocentric human design, into the HD Wild program, into any of the programs that I've created, and any of the books that I've written. Like I know the blood, sweat, tears, effort, hours that have gone into those things. And I think that the reality is we don't necessarily need more human design readers. Not to say that a human design reading isn't powerful. It is. But we need more people who understand how to hold space for people to get back to the ecocentric self. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily happen in a one-off, one-time reading. It happens in relation. It happens over time. It happens when there's depth and nuance and synthesis and experience and practical application of the information. It happens in spaces and places where the HD practitioner has a regulated nervous system, is in the high expression, and is able to actually hold the space for the other to be transformed, to transform, to learn to trust themselves again. And ultimately, to me, when we think about what makes ecocentric human design different, it's that synthesis of that depth and nuance, and the parts don't exist without the whole thinking. It's the practical lived experience that happens out in the real world. It's the real world practical examples, and it's that commitment to this level of mastery over not just the knowledge, right? Because this isn't just about the knowledge, it's about like the actual integration and embodiment and becoming of the ecocentric self. Like I look at so many of my HD Wild trained practitioners, and they are committed to becoming the whole of themselves again. And I know that that sounds silly, but they really are committed to their becoming, you know? And in order to do human design work, in my opinion, we can transfer knowledge. That is helpful. It's validating. It gives context to our experience. It helps us make sense of our past and decisions for our future. But we have to actually practice that, right? Like I think about how impactful, if I think about when I started this journey, and I started my human design journey in 2019. One of the first things that found me, I like to say, is I learned I was an emotional projector, but particularly emotional authority. And that 80% certainty is no is certainty for me. But 80% certainty, when we think about, like, here's a great example of knowledge versus integration, embodiment, and becoming. When we think about 80% certainty is a yes or a no for an emotional projector, 80% certainty is still coming from up here, right? And I think about how helpful knowing that was for me at the onset of my deconditioning journey. It was amazingly helpful. It helped me get out of my agency. I had known for the better part of a year I didn't want to keep doing my social media and marketing agency. I knew I wanted to do something different, but I didn't have 100% certainty. But even if you think about 80% certainty is still coming from the mind. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed in myself in my deconditioning journey is I now know the felt sense of what emotional neutral feels like in my body. I now know what 80% certainty feels like in my body. It doesn't come from here. It comes from in my body. It's a feeling, it's a felt sense. Okay. And that's what I mean when I say integration, embodiment, and becoming, right? And the reality is, when we think about human design work in general, everything in human design exists in dichotomy. But I actually personally really feel like it kind of exists on a spectrum. In my mind, when I teach ecocentric human design, I talk about it on a spectrum. Okay. We have the happy, congruent self in the middle, right? And over here, right, on one side, say to the left, we have the, you know, one form of the activated self, right? And then on the other side, on the other extreme, the right side, we have the other activated self, right? And on one side, say that right side, that might be, perfectionisms, could be shoulds, it could be waffling, it could be um, outsourcing decision making. And conversely, on the left side, you might have starting and stopping. You might have blaming and shaming. You might have um, abdication, right? And these are different forms of how the nervous system presents itself. And as part of this getting started with ecocentric human design, I'm going to talk about the nervous system and human design on that spectrum as I see it. But the thing is there's a giant spectrum of dichotomy that exists in supporting someone and getting back to the nature of who they are. And when we think about, you know, traditional human design talks about it as dichotomy, the congruent self or the not self, right? And I know I started this by saying the congruent self and the not self, but it's more nuanced than that, right? It's the spectrum of presentation, right? Like, because you can see two people with the exact same designs who present in the not self in two wildly different ways. Like one's activated, ready to fight, one is activated, ready to run away. Right. And then in the middle somewhere, there's degrees of the congruent self. right? And so when we think about what makes ecocentric human design different, it's that spectrum. It's that synthesis. It's understanding that the parts do not exist without the whole. It's understanding that we have to rebuild trust with the body, and that doesn't happen by, biohacking, for lack of a better term. It happens slowly over time because when we've spiraled down, right, into this not self space, we have to then like spiral back up back to the ecocentric self. And that takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that's a quick fix. Now, out of the gate, we may be able to relieve some symptoms of whatever not self presentation is there. However, it takes time and commitment to your becoming, to owning and taking up space and getting back to that ecocentric self. And once you get back to that ecocentric self, it becomes easier and easier and easier to return to the self again. I always like to use the metaphor of a lighthouse when I talk about human design. Your design is the lighthouse. And as you go out into the world, right? You're on the boat out in the world. Your light from your lighthouse and your congruence shines brighter, right? The more congruent you are, the brighter, the more whole and the more ecocentric, the more you are back to that ecocentric self, the brighter that light is going to shine, which means you feel safer to venture further from the lighthouse and out into the world, right? You feel more safe to make different decisions. And so when we think about the beginning of the journey, you might get in that boat and you might not feel that safe to go that far from the lighthouse because you're like, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it back. I might be called in by somebody else's lighthouse, right? The glittering allure of somebody else's lighthouse. But the reality is, it's that coming back home again and again and again that helps us build the confidence to go through life living and breathing our design, right? And that is part of what makes ecocentric human design so different. This is a practice space for you to practice living, integrating, becoming, and getting back to the nature of the ecocentric self. And so for me, this is going to be a fun and exciting journey that I'm very excited to share with you. I wanted to give you some context around what I see Ecocentric HD as, but I also just want to, start to plant the seeds of the process. Okay. I'm going to make kind of like a welcome series over the next week or so. We're going to go through the nervous system and human design. We're going to go through what it means to be HD informed. We're going to talk about the art of reading a chart. And then we're going to talk about the future of ecocentric HD in the human design industry. If you are interested in digging deeper, the one and only cohort of HD Wild is open for enrollment. So if you would like to become an Ecocentric HD certified practitioner or guide, I invite you to check out hdinthewild.com. That is my 1-year training program. This is the only cohort I'm going to be offering this year. And going forward, we will only be offering one cohort a year. So if that's something that you're interested in, I invite you to jump in. If you want to grab an Ecocentric HD chart, head on over to ecocentrichumandesign.com. If you want to get the support of an Eco HD trained practitioner, head on over to ecocentrichumandesign.com, and we'll put all those links in the show notes below. And if you are excited for this journey, please do let me know. I really appreciate any comments or feedback or even questions that might be coming up for you. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I look forward to chatting with you soon on the next episode of the Ecocentric Human Design podcast.